I'm back. You're there? So this is the Wika Design meeting. You're there? I heard you laughing. Today's 2nd January.
Keep asking me if I'm there.
Yeah, because you're quiet. So today we discuss the roles, the allocations, and the work schedules, and any other business. I think there's that issue of your commitment form, the agreement. We can also go through that. Of course, the meeting should be 1 hour, just maximum time. Okay, so I got the document you sent. I saw the information you added at the beginning. Did you add anything else other than what you put in the beginning?
To your document, to the business plan you sent today.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yes.
I didn't add anything.
Okay. So let me share it on my side. I'll share my entire screen. Yeah. So I've just reformatted it slightly, but this is the one. I've got your emails. I'm seeing you're using the TU Kenya email. You want to use that as your official email?
We're going to use Chungunzima eventually, but now because of correspondence,
Yeah.
they contact me through the to Kenya. But I don't want like this information in the to Kenya, but now I can't do anything for now.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. So we've got this one, so that's okay because it's just content. I'm just going through the document. So today, let me start then with these KPIs. There are 4 KPIs.
So wait,
Say again.
you're going through the document I've shared with you, or no? You're going through your document, but you made changes.
Exactly. I've just upgraded the
Okay.
document so that what you've sent or added is harmonized with what we were saying on the original document. It's just harmonized, the same thing.
Okay. So what I sent you,
Yeah.
but what I sent you was just to, because I told you they are required. They want details of 2 things.
Yeah.
So I just sent. I was sending just that part, not at the whole business plan.
No, I understand. We'll
You
go through that.
understand?
Yes. I've also opened up the other
Okay.
document. The commitment form is here. So we can go through it also.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go through. So this one, I just wanted us to be clear, I mean, in a simplified way, because the document might seem very technical when you look at it, because it has a lot of technical information. But there's a simple way of understanding it so that it's understandable to all of us. But I'll start with these KPIs because it's coming from them, and we need to have a touch point with them. So I think we had given them these KPIs. So the first one was this one. The number of cases reported through the app will give us an indicator of demand. So that's an important performance indicator. So that's okay. The second one is this one, which is the percentage increase of the victims accessing support resources through the app or through the system. Again, this one's important because, of course, if we're saying that we're making it easier, more accessible, and then we get an increase in the number of uses or use cases, then it's a sign that it's designed for the audience. It's relevant to the victims. So that's okay. Then there's this one, the volume of anonymized data utilized in shaping policies. Yeah, this is interesting, because we're presupposing that policies can be shaped, first of all, by anonymized data. Anonymized simply means, of course, that they don't know who these people are, but we are giving them information about them. We're assuming that they will buy that. And then, of course, the policy will be influenced by what we're telling them. So that's an interesting dynamic. Anyway, but we have to test these things. That's why I'm talking about them. And then this one, is the measurable community awareness improvements through outreach campaigns. It's very important, but this one is really the marketing issue. Because in order for us to increase, in fact, for 1, 2, and 3 to happen in a way that is improving or increasing, we have to sensitize communities about what we're saying, about what Chunguzima, or let's just say Wika, is saying, and in a way that's beneficial to the community. So that awareness we have to measure. And when we measure it, we also have to see to what extent is it increasing the number of users on Wika. So these are very important KPIs, but to achieve them is going to be a challenge. But I suppose that's now what this is all about, this business. So now to those, what I've done is I've now made 4 objectives to align to those. They're similar to what we had before. Like the first one, to enable victims to report abuse accurately, securely, and confidently. So that's what Wika will do. And then to provide resources for legal, emotional, and maybe we should say therapeutic and physical support. And then the third one is to use anonymized data to inform impactful policy changes. So that's an interesting one, but it's there. And then, of course, now the fourth one, which aligns with the fourth one, which was here, it wasn't there before this one, is to create sustainable or sustained engagement with support services to ensure long-term recovery and empowerment. All right, so this one, yeah, it's interesting, but we have to see how to make Wika a support service that is long-term or sustainable at least. Okay, let's go to the next one, which we had before. We had these key outcomes. This is at the end. The first one was increased reporting rates. The second one was enhanced accessibility to support networks and education. So this education is part of the awareness. And then number 3 is data-driven insights to shape societal and governmental responses. So this data-driven insights, it's an assumption. Our people or leaders will accept to be informed by data-driven insights. It's an assumption, but anyway, it's something we have to test. And then this one, improved consistency in victims utilizing resources for continued recovery and empowerment. So we want to also measure that. This one came in with the KPI, this is number 4. And then the impact measurement tools, okay, surveys and feedback from users, all right. Data analytics from the app usage, okay. And then case studies showing real life impacts on victims' lives, okay. And then number 4, which came in also is from the KPIs, is this one, retention metrics and follow-up, user engagement data analytics. Yeah, so this thing is full circle. This number 4 item, in order for it to be sustainable, is like once we have finished the cycle, or let's say one round, we have to go back, and the feedback we get as a reaction has to feed into the Wika, and then we have to redesign Wika to match what the ground is saying, because the ground will be saying something. Whatever they're saying, we have to now match it so that Wika is not saying its own things, it's matching what is being said by the ground. So these are the 4 critical things, actually, for the purpose of what we're doing. And it's good to orientate ourselves with them because they're asking for at least 2, in order for them to release the 3 tranches. The first tranche they're releasing already. But the second and third tranche, they want to see the prototypes. So we can, pick, we're doing like 5 prototypes. So we can pick 2 prototypes to show them, which should show the progress of Wika. And then at the end, of course, now we have the final one. But we are doing 5, and in fact, we're doing 6, but they want to see only 2. That's really what they're saying. We'll come to that anyway. But I just want to mention on this before we discuss, is that things are changing in this industry a lot. Like now, this new year, there's a significant change. Because Microsoft CEO announced day before yesterday that all apps are dead. That's what he announced. Now, he didn't say it the way I've told you.
Actually,
All apps, the future of all apps, apps like the Wika app, but let's just say all apps on the Play Store, the app stores like iPhone App Store, all apps are dead. That's what he announced. Now,
what does he mean?
Yeah, what he means, I'll explain. But why it matters is because he's the CEO of Microsoft. And Microsoft is the leading app company in the world anyway. I mean, Microsoft, they're leading. Then you have Google, Apple, and all that. And now he's saying that it's dead. So it's very significant in the technology world that he has said that, and it's coming from him. If it was anyone else saying it, it's okay. I mean, not anyone, but it can't be the CEO of Microsoft saying it. If it's the CEO of Microsoft saying it, it affects everything. Why I'm telling you that is just to let you know in advance. It affects the way we work. It affects the investors. There's no way we can now go in front of the investors now, 6 months from now, for a second round of investment and tell them we want to produce an app. They will refuse. Investors will not invest in an app if they know that the CEO of Microsoft has announced that all apps are dead. I don't know if you understand. That's the significance anyway, Jackie. I'm just letting you know. Now, it'll hit the industry slowly or quickly. I think it will hit quickly. At least the developers know that. But it's very, very significant. It's affecting everything. It also, you see, for example, just as an example, you're teaching your son coding or you want him to learn coding. What the CEO of Microsoft said is that there's no need to learn coding. It's an irrelevant skill. You see, that's what he's saying. He's saying there's no need to be a coder. The number of developers that exist will reduce exponentially. They'll be very quickly diminished to a very small group of developers because there's no need for them. That's what the CEO of Microsoft has said. It's very significant, Jackie. It's very significant. Even how we design Wika is affected already because we are designing Wika like for the next 6 months to go in front of investors to make a business case so that they can pump in money for the second round and then we can go to market. You see, that's what we're doing. Now, if we go as an app, the likelihood that they'll accept is very diminished, very low, unless we can make a case that will recognize what the CEO of Microsoft has said. So he's really trying to say all software as we know it, software, even Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel, he's trying to say are finished. That the future for them is now dead. That's what he's saying. So you see what has happened. It has just happened 3 days ago, and it's significant because it's now making waves within the tech community. Now I can tell you what does he mean. What he means is that from a software as a service, because that's how softwares were being launched and apps, they were coming as services. But software as a service is now being replaced by what we call agentic AI systems. Agentic AI systems are like ChatGPT or Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. But anything that is just asking a question, you're just saying to AI robot, let's say, analyze this data for me, and it analyzes for you. Or you tell it, draw a chart for me based on these parameters, and it draws the chart for you. Those are agentic systems. So those agentic systems are replacing software. That's what's going on. You see, and that's what he's trying to say. But so when you ask what does he mean, he means exactly that. Agentic AI systems are going to replace software, and that has already started happening because ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot, and there are many others like DeepMind, they're already out. Now, from the feedback they're getting and the use of these systems, they're seeing that they're not going to focus anymore on software development. They're going to focus on developing these agentic systems. That's what he's trying to say. Now, all these apps on the Play Stores, you can even say websites, all these things are what are going to be replaced. Those are no longer relevant. They're, you can say, the last generation or what was there before in the last, let's say, age. But now in the new age, they'll be replaced by these agentic systems. An agentic system uses AI agents to find what you want and to do what you want. They don't use or rely on human beings. That's what's going on. I hope it makes sense anyway.
Yes.
But you can Google it also. If you Google Microsoft, the MD himself, he speaks in a very technical way, so you might not understand him. But there are very many bloggers who are going to be interpreting what he is saying because it's significant, just like what I'm doing with you. You'll find very many YouTubers who will just be talking about it. But for him, he's not going to be alarmist. He's not going to tell you what I've said, that software is dead. He will not tell you that. But he says it in a way that to a developer is very clear that software development is dead. So if you're going to be a developer, you have to rethink that one because you're not going to be developing apps in the future. And the future is now. It's not like it's tomorrow. It's now. It's already come. And the big companies, all these big companies, that's Microsoft, IBM, Amazon, IBM, did I say IBM? Yeah, Facebook. All these big companies are already implementing these agentic systems. So once those ones are doing it, the trickle down will happen very fast. So it's it's happened. Yeah, but that's how tech is anyway.
So what does
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll listen to you now.
What does that mean for us?
Yeah, for us it's significant. So it affects me more than it affects you because I'm the one who has to develop the app. So the question is, how do we develop the app? What in simple terms, what the Microsoft CEO is saying is a guy called Nibela. What he is saying is that I should be developing an agentic system, not an app. That's what he's saying. An agentic system is something like ChatGPT, where, like now what we're saying, for example, just take the first, let's say, objective here. These objectives apply to the product. This one, we're saying enable victims to report abuse securely and confidentially. What he's saying is that we should just create a system like ChatGPT. The victim comes and types in there whatever they want to say. For example, they could come there and say something like, I've been attacked by my husband and my eye is red and my lip is bleeding. He's drunk and he's going to attack me again, I think, and I'm feeling very unsafe. So she types a story. So that's the story. Now, based on that story, all the services that pertain to that will happen, like this outcome here. Increased reporting rates, enhanced accessibility to support networks and education. These things will take place based on what she has said. That's how it should be now. That's what he's trying to say. You see? It's not like she's going to work her way through menus, log in, then after that, type in some details, and then after, it's not a software which has menus. It's not that. What he's saying is it's just someone going to ChatGPT and telling ChatGPT what has happened. That's what we're saying. And then when she says it, the agentic system is intelligent, so it's able now to maneuver and do what happens next. So if the next thing that's supposed to happen is to connect her, let's say, to a healthcare service, it will do that. If it's to connect her to therapy counselors, it will do that. If it's supposed to get, let's say, financial aid for her, it will do that. If it's supposed to report this to the police, it will report it to the police. If it's supposed to do some education, let's say awareness on something, if there's some awareness required, it will do that. That's what happens. But she doesn't know it's happening. It's just happening because she has made this complaint. That's the kind of system he's saying we should be developing. You see.
Still, you saying that it's very much possible to still, because that will not happen. The agentic
no, remove the
thing will not happen.
Remove the T when you say agentic.
Okay. The agentic thing will not happen if there is no system. So let's say we are building that system, so that when you kick into ChatGPT or whatever, it can do that. Yeah, so it's okay. So what we need to do is have that possibility or create that room of flexibility for transition from a software into agentic.
Yeah, but even because we haven't started, I mean, the question is, should we even bother creating a software? what we can do straight away is build an agentic system as opposed to building a software system. You see, these are two different things. Anyone who has software that's working will have to transition to an agentic system. And that is an extra load because you have to transition. So it means you have to build the transitioning, and then you have to have the agentic system which is there that you're transitioning to. So there are two things. But for us, if we have not started, we can just start with the agentic system. So we're not bothering with software. We're just doing the agentic system. See, agentic systems work differently from softwares. How it works, I'll tell you in a simplified way, is that when you launch a software like Word, Word has its own database. What it does is that you type in something, it stores it in the database. You delete something, it deletes it from the database. It does all that for you. But Word does an extra thing. It visualizes what is in the database based on Word. So for you as a human being, you can see the text. But actually, this stuff is all in the database. That's what's going on. So what Microsoft's CEO is saying is that the interface is going to be removed. This Word interface, the Excel interface, the PowerPoint interface is going to be removed now. The only interface that will be there is the ChatGPT interface. But of course, it's not ChatGPT. Now we can say Wika. And all you do is tell it what you want. So if you say, hey, now, like for Wika in particular, you say something to the effect that I need to know, there's several users. I need to know how many cases were reported of, let's say, domestic violence in the last year of 2024. Now, it will give you that data visualization straight away. And it will show you as a chart. So in the past, you'd have to take the data, import it into Excel, and then visualize it. You'd have to do that. But now, the systems now that are coming are not requiring any of that. It just requires you to tell it what you want. And it's going to itself be intelligent to know where to go and get the data, which algorithms it needs to analyze, and then how to visualize the data it will visualize. So that's the kind of system we can develop. So we cut out the user interface. That one is required for software. We don't need that. But we still need to capture data. Agentic data is different from software data. Agentic data is more human. It's actually more human. You see, software data is created by the software itself, but the agentic data is created by humans. So there's an issue of cleaning the data because human beings' data, they can be fake news there. They can be, you can say, wrong information there, just wrong information. Some of it might be right. So you have to clean it. And then the quality of the data has to be good because for Wika to work, you can't have data that's useless. I mean, it might be interesting, but it's useless for Wika. Wika needs very specific data, so you have to filter. So there are those things that the agentic system requires in the data in order to automate the behavior of the agent that's coming to visualize whatever is needed. So that's a different system altogether from the way software works. The data that's in Word and the data that's in Excel or PowerPoint, it's very, very structured because it's not created by you or me. It's created by the software itself. But the one that comes through these agentic systems, the agentic system gets information directly from human beings and then keeps it there. Some of it, you can say half of it may be useless. So it has to be able to be cleaned. And that's what Wika has to do. Wika has to clean that data. So there's a kind of difference in the way we are going to go about it now if we're going to do that. But if we do that, by the way, if we build something like that, then you find that the investors will be interested because they can see clearly this one is wired for the future. It's not based on the history or the tradition or the past. You see the argument now. Yeah, so Jackie, you're still there? Your mic must be off.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm there, but I'm walking around the house and I'm listening.
Okay, no worry.
So just Nini, I'll respond when I'm back sitting.
All right then. Okay, so that's the main thing. So I agree with you in some ways that yeah, we still need a system. We still need to have we can say a concept and all this. But the way we design it will make it see light of day, or will make it useless. The way we design it, because investors will not be interested in apps from this minute that I'm talking. In fact, from the moment that the CEO announced those things, the investors will not be interested in an app. They'll really question you for doing an app. So that's one. And then the second is that because things change quickly in the AI world, they change very, very quickly. Um, by 6 months from now, we would be relevant if we do an agentic system. But if we do a software, we might be irrelevant, just in terms of what we're trying to do. So we have to, in some ways, think about it deeply. It affects what I'm doing more than it affects yours, but to a certain extent, it also affects what you will be doing. But it affects the app itself. We can still implement the app, but that app will not be what we thought it might be. It will just be a place where you can go and ask this question, like ChatGPT, like that. But we'll see. I mean, now these are, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, then can we just do, since you say my area is not affected?
Yeah.
I'll do, because it's like I'm doing, what do you call it? Fieldwork, research, groundwork, like primary data. Is it primary or secondary data? So
yeah,
I'll just do all that, because I feel like Agenic is more simplified.
Yeah.
And the app has a lot of groundwork. So for the sake of data, having data, and data is black oil, I just go and get that data. Yeah. And then with time we can transition. I'm even, now that you've told me, after this I'm going to have the discussion with the Awitawi women and tell them, so that we can discuss what that Microsoft guy said and what it means. So I'm just saying, I think what I'm trying to say is, let's be flexible on both. We don't need, until the transition is apparent, then we can now just ditch the app and then do the Agenic. The good thing is I trust you and your trajectory, and when you tell me these things, so I know what you're saying eventually. That's what's going to happen radically.
Very much so. Yeah. I mean,
yes. But also for the sake of my learning, for the sake of my learning, let's just do it, I guess, the old-fashioned way, so that I know now when we do the Agenic, I know, I guess, what needs to be done also.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of things. You see, also the interesting thing, Jackie, is that now we're both learning, because you see, I'm trying to digest what the Microsoft guy was saying. He doesn't speak in he speaks like a techie guy, like a nerd. So it has to be translated, it has to be digested, and us, we're in Africa, so we have to also bring it home in a way. So all these things I'm also learning and trying to figure out in my mind, okay, what's the way forward? So it's an interesting situation that's arising right now. That's number one. Number two, for the purpose of English, in terms of just dealing with normal people like these guys of the AI Foundation, AI movement, the Moroccans, we can still talk of the Wika app. It's just a name. It's a name, Wika app. They don't know what the Wika app looks like. Now, I'm only telling you that the Wika app is going to look a bit different, or very different from what we were initially planning. But they don't know that. They just know there's a Wika app. And we can keep on that language. It's okay. That one, we don't have to change. As you're saying, we can keep on talking of the Wika app is coming. We're going to prototype it. We're going to describe it. We'll demonstrate it. We're going to show how it works. All these things we can keep on talking to them about. Nothing changes there, because it's like, you can say English. We're communicating using a language. How it looks and exactly what it does, that one is changing, but it changes on our side. It doesn't affect them so much, in fact, at all. And even our users, as you said, for our users, it will feel easier somehow. It'll be easier because you're just going there and talking. So when you're talking, if you're even an old person who doesn't know how to use technology and you have to just talk, you'll talk your story. It will just interpret your story. So for users, it will be even easier. The harder part is for us, you and I. And then what also makes it complicated is that we have to connect to different Like we have to connect with institutions, we have to connect with other software, let's say other companies that are techie like Safaricom or companies like that. We have to connect. Now, if we're connecting with them, they have to be ready for an agentic system. So there's that. But I can tell you for sure, the tech companies will already be thinking the way we are thinking, the tech companies. Um, yeah, let me just quickly answer this one, then I'll get back. Hello? 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 Yeah. Can I call you back? I'm in a meeting, but I can call you back in about half an hour. Okay. All right. Yeah, so it's okay. We'll carry on. It may not change, as you're saying, our business plan. Our business plan is still the same. That one doesn't change. So these parts on the vision and the mission remain the same. We've gone through these. Yeah. Now I wanted us to come to the new things on the document. Unless you have questions, I'll just go through like market analysis. If you have anything you want to ask on this one, like the social problem addressed, we have talked about that. Then target stakeholders, and then we have these alignment goals. Had you wanted to say anything on this, Jackie?
No.
Okay. Then there's this one on social impact metrics. No, but we've already these KPIs.
We've discussed that one.
Then value proposition. This one we're not discussing. It's clear. Operational plan, key activities, deliverables. Yeah, these ones we got from the document. Deliverables. Market outreach. Yeah. So now these are the things where your role comes in. This awareness campaigns and this, engagement channels. You come in there. Okay, then we have these risks and solutions. Yeah, so these are for investors. Okay, this is the section, this section here on the organizational structure that we need to look at. And I may have to change the view. I just want to go down to the new stuff. This one we saw last time. That's looks crowded, but it's okay. So it's fine. Yeah, this is the thing that is new, which is key. Duties, deliverables, deadlines. And you are showing me a bit of that. Now, I've put the roles like Martin, Jackie, and Martin. So Martin's main role or responsibility is the app design and development, and this one, the research and data collection. This is all the testing that's done using the app, analysis, all those things. So I'm more of the developer and the tester. That's for the product. So I build the product. Jackie is responsible for building the business, developing the business. So you're responsible for community outreach awareness, and you can say partnerships and support services. I don't know if it's clear. Should I zoom in? Okay, so you're responsible for those.
It's okay, Martin. I have the document.
Oh, I see. Oh.
Yeah, but just share. Just keep sharing. It's okay.
Okay. Okay, so if you're responsible for those two things, we need to unpack them kidogo. So what I've done is your role, I've given you this role here of program relations manager. I'll explain a bit more. And this one called stakeholder manager. I'll explain them a bit more. I gave under responsibilities, your responsibility is why are they mixed up? Okay, there's this one, customer engagement and satisfaction. That is under as a stakeholder manager. But this one of program relations manager, now your responsibility is to create, you can say, programs with the victims for purposes of sensitization and education. It's just not written here, but I'll write it. So it's to create these programs for purposes of sensitization and also education. Now, as you know, for Wika, the more sensitized the users are in the communities, the more they will use it because they now see the benefit. So you have to have a way. I'll just give you the examples as a way of talking. For example, if we go to an area that we want to target, like we could say, let's just say we go to women in Jericho, in Eastlands, and we may argue, whichever argument we use, that we'll get many clients there. So let's go to Jericho in Westlands, and we're targeting that in Eastlands, and that's the area we're going. So if we're going there, the example is that we create workshops, okay, a series of them under the program of Jericho, let's say, victims of domestic violence. That's the name of the program. But we create a series of workshops, and these are sensitization workshops, but they have a series. So there's one series of sensitization. There's another series of, you can argue, you can say data collection, where we are now testing our Wika app and we're trying to get feedback. Then we can have another series on education. So those are like three different areas. Now, the sensitization is a marketing exercise. It's creating awareness in a way that they will start using Wika. So the sensitization workshops are to market Wika. Then once we do sales and people start using Wika, I'm calling it sales to simplify the language, but now they start using Wika, we need to collect data. So we'll collect data from analytics, which is automatic, it comes, but we also need their feedback. But for them to give us feedback, I was talking to you earlier about agentic feedback needs to be clean. We need to have workshops on showing them how to give us feedback. It's not like you can just come and give us your story. There's a way in which that feedback must come in order for it to be meaningful to Wika. So there's a workshop would help with that, just to get clean data. So when we get the clean data, then the AI system can work in an automated way. That's number two. And then number three is the issue of, you can say, education. And education is looking at the long life issues. For example, if you're a victim who has survived, there's a way in which you can help your community using Wika. That's what we're saying. So that we minimize incidences of abuse. But the way Wika minimizes incidences of abuse is through reporting. So the education is on how can a survivor now sensitize others in a way that will minimize abuse through violence, domestic violence. That's now what the education is, and we have a way of doing it so that they can help us, you can say, with the natural growth of the Wika app within their community, that kind of thing. And there could be other issues, by the way. I'm just giving an example. So that's just an example of sensitization, data collection, education, and those are three, you can say, workshops. You can say workshop series under the program, or let's say Jericho Women of Domestic Violence. We can give it a name like that. And then the same name can be under domestic violence in general. So we can also have Westlands Victims of Domestic Violence. We can also have, we can go to different towns. So that's just, you can say, a program, you see, and it will have its uniqueness, but it has to have a framework. It has to be developed into, the way programs are. It has its objective, it has its plan, and then it has the various activities, and then there's the way we assess the outcomes of the program to see how successful the program was, and of course, so it has all those things, but it is something that we need to execute. Now, for the purpose of Wika, like these 6 months, we don't have to have more than one program. There can be many other programs. There can be, you can say, victims of domestic violence children. So now you're looking at minors who are victims. We can look at different types of people. You can also look at men. So, and it doesn't have to be gender-based. It can be something different altogether. So it's just for us to pick one demographic, and we create a program for that demographic, and then we now look at the different levels at which we want to work with that demographic in these three ways that I've described. And even in terms of reach, in terms of, let's say, we don't have to do the whole country. We can just pick the people in a community that we want to work with. Because all we need is the data. So once we work with that community, that's it. It's enough. This is like it's a prototype. So we're just demonstrating. This is exactly what it is. So your job becomes, as the program relations manager, you're the one who creates the framework for the program. You're the one who writes, you can say, let's call them curriculums for the workshops. You're the one who executes those workshops. You're the one who, and the execution of a workshop means you're the one who, will sensitize. You run the sensitization workshop. You're the one who run the what we're calling data collection workshop, and then the one who do the education workshop. So you run them under the curriculums that we've developed for those workshops. And then, of course, you're using the Wika app in all of those workshops. And once that data is in, it's ready for us to, you can say, use it the way it's supposed to be used. So that's the benefit. That's the touch point between Wika and the public. Okay, so that's one. That one, I think, let me stop there so that you can just talk to me about it and tell me what you're thinking.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is maybe I'll start. I think what you're trying to tell me is you're giving me a starting point. So I should start working on those workshops.
Yeah.
Like the programs, how they're going to, the details, how we're going to do it, how we're going to conduct it, how many people probably we're going to need to help with the workshops, if we are going to do I guess mostly I'll ask volunteers, but then the volunteers need to be trained.
Yeah.
But I think I'll need a coordinator or an assistant. Will I need an assistant? And I guess we'll have to pay the assistant.
Yeah, in fact, now that's why we're having this discussion, because you see, we're getting money and we need to budget that money. And one of the things the money is actually funding is what you're saying. You definitely need an assistant, because you see, if we're doing 3 types of workshops, right? And they're not necessarily, they're happening at different times. That's already one workshop in itself is going to require a lot of coordination, because you're working with the public. You have to get people together. You have to get some information. Like, you can't just say you can get women. You can't just say that. You have to have a strategy on how you get those women. So there's a sense of you needed to design, first of all, the whole program, which is not only the curriculum, but also the implementation plan, how you're going to actually go about it. So once you have the curriculum, you have to implement the curriculum for each workshop. So you have to design the curriculum first, then you have to design the plan, that how are you executing that curriculum. And then once you have done that, in the execution, there's going to be what you can say activities. The activities which are, let's call them Wika activities, but then they're going to be Wika assessments, because we are gathering data and we're getting metrics. So we have to have measurement points. So you can look at the implementation as having Wika activities and Wika assessments. Okay, so that's the implementation. So once that's done, you got the data, then the third step is now you want to educate these people. So you have to have 3 curriculums for that program, or let's just call it that. And then you have to have 3 implementation plans, one for each program, so that now it's one for each curriculum. So now you have that document. It's the design of the program. The design of the program has to be a document. So once you have that, then you now have the, let's say, plan. You see, the plan will have things like a timetable. We're starting on this day, we're ending on this day. It's going to have, you can say, a budget, like you're bringing people together. You have to have refreshments. You have to have helpers. You have to have people involved on the ground. But it might be just for 2 days or 3 days. It can be just that. You have to have a venue. Maybe you have to pay for that. You see such things. And it has to have those. So, and then, of course, when you're educating them, training them, you have to decide how that is going to happen. Is it going to happen online? Because you can also train online, but you can also train face-to-face in terms of education. So those things will be determined by you. But that's now the program. You have to have this, and you're the program relations manager, so you have to have it. Now, in terms of people, you need someone for sure. You need someone. You might even need more than one person. You might need, you see, for example, the design of the entire curriculum, you need one type of person. The implementation of it on the ground, you may need more than one person. Maybe you need 2 or 3 people, because it's happening over 2 days. Just for one, the first curriculum is 2 days, for example. So you may need 2 or 3 people for that. And then you're going to need finally to educate, training. If it's online, okay, that's one way. But if it's, let's say, online can even be on the phone. You can do this thing on the phone. But if it's going to be face to face, it's like another workshop, physical. So again, that needs people. So the program will tell you how many people you need, but it could be more than one person. It might be 2 or 3 people, you see. And you might not need them the whole time. You just need them for specific tasks. And then once they're done, that's it. Okay? That's how I'm thinking, Ducky. What do you say?
I agree. I'll just, I have a notebook. I'm noting down everything. So at least now I know from next week. I have a deadline starting from 6th.
Yeah.
Something to do with, I don't know, is this the thing? But I'll start doing the program. At least I have experience in curriculum, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'll start doing it
Yeah.
as soon as I get to Nairobi. That is my first meaning, the outreach, because we need it for collecting data. Senior.
Exactly. Okay. So I've just indicated it here. This is a correction, but I'll send you this one again. Then now the second thing is that, by the way, just a small comment. Wika is free. Wika is, victims are not being charged. So these programs,
Yeah.
even though we're getting victims and we're sensitizing them, educating them, all those things, there's no cost to them. The money has to be, the Wika has to be sustainable. So it needs to make money. That's where the stakeholder management comes in. The stakeholders are people who are interested in Wika, and you know them. They're these, you can say the government is one, a big one, but you can also say all these international bodies that are interested in rights, human rights. But you can also say community. So there are many community associations that would be interested in Wika for what it's doing. And schools, you can say, we can always problematize. We can just list the different stakeholders. Now, we have to pick, even when we are doing the programs and working with users, it must be in line with the stakeholders. So I was just saying Jericho women, but that might not be of interest to our stakeholders. It's ideal if we can find stakeholders and then work with their users as our testing ground, as our pilot where we're starting and doing our prototype tests. So these stakeholders are the ones who pay, the ones who pay for these services. You see, and it could be that, just as an example, it could be let's just say UNICEF. So UNICEF are interested, they have a need for this data, and they also are interested in the KPIs of Wika. So UNICEF say, okay, we can give you users you can work with, and then that gives us our base. But now we have to create what we can call customer engagement and satisfaction. In other words, we have to engage with our stakeholders, like UNICEF, in a way that meets their own objectives and their own, you can say, KPIs. You see, to an extent that they feel Wika has done the job. It's met what we expected. Because if we do, then we have a business case. Because they have money, we'll say to them that, look, we've met this requirement, and for us to live, for us to sustain ourselves, we have these costs. And it costs ABC like so. You see, they'll be interested in talking to us because we have met their helped them meet their KPIs. So that's now, this is important. In a normal business, this would be the job of the sales and marketing. Let's say the sales manager. You see, but we're calling it stakeholder manager instead, because it's social impact. And instead of, let's say, selling products or services, we're creating what we're calling customer engagement and satisfaction. So we're trying to satisfy their interests or their needs, which is their own KPIs. And we do it by aligning their KPIs with Wika KPIs. When they see they are aligned, and then we're able to show them using data, now we have a business case. We can now talk of compensation for the work that we're doing in order for us to keep doing it. That's now important. So what you need to do as a second thing is to identify stakeholders. You have to have the full list that we can think of. And then, of course, identify from that list the one we're going to start with. Let's say whichever, could be UNICEF. Okay, and then from there, have a plan for them. which we're calling a customer engagement and satisfaction plan. But we can give it another name, but that's just a working name. Okay. Now, because it is.
I have questions.
Yeah, ask these questions. Yeah.
So the first question, will I have to interview a sales manager for that position? Or I can look for someone I know, or what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, you see now, how it works, Jackie, is that you have talents, and you know where you're strong, you know where you're weak. The idea is for you to play to your strength, but where you're weak, look for someone to support you so that you don't duplicate roles. So you're going to do things that you know this one I can do, but then where you know that you need support or help, and that would be very helpful for Wika, identify or think of someone. Like for example, when you're saying sales, yeah, but this is a kind of sales job because you have to identify where you can get money. So you don't just pick anyone, you have to pick organizations which will pay you for this. So you need a salesperson for sure. And then once they get, let's say, once you have identified that company, you have to go there and do a presentation, which is persuasive, that will make them see the sense of working with Wika and paying Wika. You see, that's the sales again, that's the sales aspect. So again, you need someone who can do that for sure. And then once they've understood what Wika is doing for them and they agree to pay, the salesperson has to get the contract done, do all the paperwork, and then be able now to go over the line, like deliver on the services and provide what you can call after sales service. Those are things which fall under sales, like customer care, customer service, all this customer satisfaction business. But for Wika, it's very specific what we're doing. So defining those things in the sales plan, you can call it a marketing and sales plan, is what now this is about. So you can manage that process, but you do need someone who can play that role of selling. And they're not concerned so much with the user. Their interest in the user is just to make a sale, but their main focus is on the stakeholder. You see what I mean?
Second question.
Yeah.
There's a, what do you call it? There's a clause in the contract.
Yeah.
That there are things about this project I'm not supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
So when I'm going to someone, the stakeholder, that one now I should ask when we're looking for a stakeholder. Because when I go approaching, or when the person is approaching stakeholders, how will we convey that? You don't need to answer it now, but just put it at the back of your mind about that clause of privacy and silence and whatnot. Because there's something about that.
I can answer that one now.
And even everyone.
No. Yeah, you finish. Just say what you are saying.
And even everyone we hire, they have to sign that. We'll have to make them sign that.
Exactly. And that's what that clause is saying. That clause is saying that whoever you engage in whichever capacity, if we're going to be sharing secrets about Wika, then they have to sign NDAs. And that's the most we can do, really. So if we're going to engage, let's say, a stakeholder for these 6 months, and we're going to have a working relationship and all that, they'll sign an NDA. You see, that's what that clause is saying. Because if they say to us, for example, you're not supposed to leak information about, ABC on Wika, when they ask that question, we should be able to say we signed NDAs with these people. So suppose it does leak. Human beings, it can leak. But if they see you've signed an NDA, then we'll have met our end of the bargain because that's what you do. If someone has leaked it and they have signed an NDA, they're the ones who are culpable. They're responsible for leaking it. The buck shifts from us to them because they signed that they will not. Now they have leaked. So it is. But the positive is that they just want to see that we're legally covering ourselves, making sure that we're not contravening what they feel should be private. You see? So we maintain that. Yeah, because as you say, sometimes when you're working with people at this early stage, we're also not sure about the outcome. We're testing, we're finding out. You need someone you can work with, but you also have to share with them in an honest way why we're doing what we're doing and how we're doing it, so that they can see we're actually honest and we're trying to start something that's good. If they see that, they'll likely also contribute. They'll even contribute their own resources, which is what we would also like. You see, so we don't want them to feel we're withholding information, we're hiding, or anything that might make the relationship break the trust. We don't want to break the trust. So it's important, I think, as you say, that when we go in with someone, we are open and they can see we are, and the trust between us is strong so that we can share resources. And if they share resources with us, we put us in a very strong position. So that's why we want it like that. Yeah. So it's a good question, and you have to write out that NDA for your stakeholders. Even for users, I think even if we're going to work with users because of the secrecy issues, they would have their own NDAs, which are different from the one for the stakeholders. Yeah. So we can handle it like that. And then there's this one here where we'll both develop the business case. So the business case is implemented through the system. How do we get paid? How much does it cost for our services? All that. We have to work it out. And exactly what is the full service we're giving. For example, we might have common interests with the user, but you might find that UNESCO is very concerned about, long-term support, for example. So those kind of things need to be worked out in a business case. So we have to build this business case into the system so that it's clear to our different stakeholders what we're doing with them and what they're paying for. Okay, so that's why I put this you and I developing. You see, for us internally, it means that these departments of the app design and development and the research have to connect with the department of community outreach, awareness, and partnership. These two departments have to connect. So they connect in the business case here because Wika helps the outreach department to achieve the KPIs. So the app or the product is helping your department to achieve the KPIs. That's what we're saying. So if that is going to happen, then we have a business case. But the business case can be implemented if we are successful. If we deliver, then we are in business because now we can say that, yeah, you pay according to what we're doing. And we can discuss it. I mean, for example, are we going to make it a prepaid service or are we going to make it postpaid? So we can discuss such things. But that's the thing. And then, of course, now it becomes interesting to investors because we have a way of making money that makes it sustainable. Yeah. Okay, so that kind of explains the roles, Jackie. These ones are the
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. You can now talk.
No, I was just going to say yes. At least that one, if we can do it together, it's okay. When that time comes, then we shall just do it together. That one I don't have a problem.
So then also in what you do here, whatever you're doing, I can also be involved. It's not like I won't be involved. I'll just be involved. It's just that you're responsible, but I'll be there as well, just to assist. Okay, then here I've broken down, as you said, the deadlines according to, it's backwards, but it's okay. But it's according to the milestones, the activities that we're doing. So your first deadline here is January 17th, and you should have had by then barrier assessment methods. Yeah, so this needs to be done by the 17th. Okay, so those are things we can discuss in our next meeting, exactly the next deadlines. And then you have another one for 20th. Then there's one for 11th. So we can discuss these specifically. But this is all about the market potential. So the first exercise that you're doing, Jackie, is involving assessing the market potential. Because you've said many things. Like there's a need out there, there's a problem, and the problem is pervasive. In other words, it affects many people, different categories of people. So that asks very many questions about the market potential. For example, do you have evidence to support what you're saying? Number one. Number two, when you look at the different people who are affected, who is affected most? That's number two. And then, can Wika provide a solution to the most affected category? Such questions, they come under this market potential. So you have to write a document on this. These two, you have to get real data to back up a document that is explaining and answering questions like those. So who is affected? How pervasive is the problem? What is the size of the effect or the problem within that category? And can Wika provide a solution to that group? And there might be other questions you come up with, but you see, you need to have that. So if you have that in this assessment of methods, number 1, by 17th, that is an important document for us to have. And then after that,
So
yeah.
during the
Yeah.
during my pitch,
Yeah.
during presentation, there was some data I came across,
Yeah.
actually a lot of data
Yeah.
on this information.
Yes.
Especially even the market potential. There are some parts of aspects of the apps that have been done even here in Kenya,
Yeah.
but they kind of died down.
Yes.
So I have that data somewhere, so I'll just access that and
All right.
then put it in a document.
Yeah. Yeah. Call that document something like this. It doesn't have to be exact, but you see, barrier assessment methods. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but it's trying to assess the problems with going to the market. And it's really speaking to your solution because you have said the problem exists. So you have to talk about evidence that the problem exists. And then it's in a sufficient size that it needs intervention. It requires a solution. Okay, so now we know that. And then you have to show for sure that this solution that it requires can be solved by Wika. You have to show, and everything's evidence-based. So once you have that, this document is done, it's good. And 17th is today is yes, in 2 weeks' time. So you have 2 weeks to do that. After that, just 3 days after that, we're going to do our first proof of concept based on that data and your findings. The proof of concept is the awareness and trust testing, because it's just testing that the solution is one that Wika can solve. It's a very important prototype. So we'll have a prototype called a proof of concept prototype. And that's the one that will now test that. And then we need to do needs assessment. You see this gap identification, this one. You now have to ask the reverse question. Okay, so now we know that there's a problem. We know that it's big. We know Wika can solve it. Now you have to ask the reverse question. What does the victim need in order for us to provide our solution? That's the need assessment. It's an identification gap. But you mentioned about competitors or competing apps that failed. You also need to do a competitor analysis so that you can know why they failed, or if there's any that's succeeding and or surviving, maybe in other countries or wherever. You can look at why they are surviving and why they are succeeding. And there's a very important question that is always asked in these presentations. What's Wika doing different from what is already being done? So now that has to be answered in this gap identification. So when you do a needs assessment and then you write a report on that, you know the needs assessment is actually a questionnaire, but the report is now explaining the questionnaire. So you need to answer the question, what is Wika going to do different? Different from the competitors, based on the gaps and the needs of the user. So that one is by 11th of February. So that's very important. Okay, and then comes this one on the social impact evaluation, NGO and agency partnerships. So you have to look at the classic, like in a classic way, you have to talk to government because we're talking of policy, even if it's not central government, but local government, but you have to think like that. NGOs, yeah, all these international organizations, but also just NGOs, the small ones. We need to have a map of those people, but we're only going to work with one. But alliance building, you need a strategy, like a sales plan, on how you're going to get these people on board. You need to write that, okay? They don't have to be big documents. It's just a document which just says this is exactly how we're going to onboard these people. That's your sales plan, okay? And then we keep going. I mean, that just gives you a sense. And then comes this feasibility and data collection. Is all this. This time I'll be having a second prototype ready, especially by this stage when we're estimating growth and user behavior adoption. I'll have a prototype ready for that. So we'll test based on your ideas that you found. Identifying resources and training needs. Now you see, you have a training component, education component within the program. So this one is identifying the educational aspects and the needs. And then, of course, the resources. You see, because of the cost. I mean, what is it going to involve for you to educate these guys? But think about the possibility of online education, because that is always cheaper and easier to scale. But if not, they can be face-to-face or even hybrid. We can also do hybrid. And then comes this one, reviewing partnerships for operations. Yeah. You see, not every partner will work. You might think that they'll work. Like, for example, if you go to KK government and start talking to them, you might think on paper, yeah, these guys should work with us. But maybe they can't. But we have to review that so that we can document that these are the guys who need us, but these are the ones we can work with. You see, that's important for as a sales exercise. So that's the feasibility document. This feasibility issue is a central issue in what we're doing. When we go in front of investors, they'll ask us questions around feasibility, but they'll also ask us about financial viability. Now, this one is really asking the question. So you've said you want to work with UNESCO and you've got a solution UNESCO is agreeing with. Okay, are they willing to pay? That's the question it's answering. That's the viability question. Because if they're not willing to pay, then how are you going to sustain the whole program? So we have to structure, we have to write a plan for selling our services that the stakeholders will agree. And that's what we're calling it's evidence-based, but it's called a user-based retention analysis. But it's talking about our stakeholders. How will we interest them? How will we retain them as you can say customers? And we have to assess them for their long-term sustainability of the project. Because if UNESCO say will come in one time and take off, that's not helpful long-term. So we have to have a language that will make UNESCO come in indefinitely. As long as we're giving this service, they'll always pay. So that means this year, next year, and throughout. That's what we mean by long-term sustainability. So we'll have to write a document on that based on the evidence. And then finally, you have this one, the redeployment operation. Now, this one is, you see, by now it is June or even July, but by June, we have to prepare to meet what we're calling round two investors, seed capital investors. We have to prepare. Those guys are interested in different things. They assume that we have a unique selling point. They assume that. They assume it is feasible. They assume it is viable. That's the assumption. Now they're interested in other parameters. So this redeployment is preparing ourselves to present for those parameters of their interest. You see, so that's what we'll be doing last. And it requires a kind of slightly different preparation. And I've tried to identify them. So the strength of our partnerships will be important. The adoption and misuse scenario analysis, because they'll troubleshoot. They'll ask us what can go wrong. So we should have analyzed that so that we know the possible areas things can go wrong, and we explain and we tell them how we'll solve them. And then this one.
Martin,
Yeah.
Ebu, give me a minute. I try and change my headphones. Hii imeisha.
Sawa, no problem.
Ebu talk. I'm charging as I listen, so I want to see if it can work.
All right. I think we've covered. So there are 11, you can say, tasks, and most of these, half of these tasks are for you to just prepare a document. The other half is for you to do physical tests. And since you're going to be running pilot workshops and at different levels, there are three. Those tests will be done within those workshops. So there are three physical tests where you're getting feedback data, and then of course you have the document that you're preparing based on evidence. Everything has to be data driven because AI requires data. So we just need to have the kind of data that will support our arguments, and of course we'll gather our own data as well. So you have two jobs. It's this one, the community outreach and awareness, and the second one is partnerships and support services. Those are the two. The community outreach deals with end users, victims. Partnerships deals with our clients, if you like, our customers. But those are the NGOs, government agencies, even private companies who are interested in what Wika is doing. So those are our two very critical for the survival of this thing. Okay, then I have my tasks here. So mine is a tall list, but it's all around design and development of the product. So it's all that. And then is our combined list. Now, this combined list is where we're connecting, integrating what you're doing and what the product is doing. We're putting the program, we're taking the program and integrating its activities into the Wika app, the product. So the point at which the product meets the program is when you and I now have to work together. All this, okay? But we have here this pre-deployment preparation. When we are preparing now for the presentation to the round 2 investors, we'll need to work together so that we come up with a strategy on how we're going to do that. Okay, so that strategy will require its own prototype. It will require its own, let's call it proposal document, like business plan. It will require its own business plan. So we'll prepare that one at the end. The deadline for this whole thing is 27th of June. Yours was finishing 27th of June, yeah. So that's the one. But that assumes, Jackie, that we start on the second, on Monday. Today is the second, right? So 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. We start on the 6th and we finish on the 27th of June. Those 6 months. I saw that their timeline on the agreement is 8 months. But for us, 6 months. So we have some lead time, or in case, let's call it lag time. In case we delay, there's 2 months delay we can afford. But the plan we've done is for 6 months. All right, so that one is it. And the rest now is explaining questions. If you're not, you see, because we've talked, a lot of these is answered in this breakdown. So this first breakdown of Wika app technology services, just trying to explain technical terms. But this is for someone who's reading the document, but we are not sat to talk. And then now comes the work schedule. So this is the last part of our meeting where we look at the work schedule. So I've written out the work schedule like so, give details on it, and you can always identify. I've broken it into your services. You're the CSIO, that's you. I'm the CTO. Okay, yours is you're the company social impact officer, whereas I'm the company technical officer. You see, so that's what those titles are. And week 1, these are your jobs here. Okay, so when you see develop a detailed social impact strategy and define key objectives, that's what we were looking at earlier, that you have to have that by the 17th. You see, then establish initial relationships with stakeholders, including community leaders, donors, and government. Now you have to start finding out these people. You need a hit list of people who you're going to reach out to. And then you need now to design a preliminary framework for evaluating social impact programs. So there are 3 things here, Jackie. One is the plan on what kind of activities you're going to do. So it has its objectives, it has its outcomes, and then it has its activities. Okay? Then you need the user to be involved. And in this case, we're looking at the stakeholder, not even the user. This is the stakeholder. The stakeholder will point us to users because they will tell us, Like the government might tell us, okay, these are where we see problems of, let's say, domestic violence. You see, so we'll work depending on our stakeholders because they're willing to fund certain situations. So those scenarios we'll get from them. So you need to find out who they are. Your document initially has to have this list, and it has to be cutting across so that we get a good landscape. And then finally, you need to, within your document, explain how we are going to evaluate the social impact of your programs. Okay? So this is what you need. And of course, it's asking you to design a curriculum. And you can design it at a top level way. It doesn't have to be detailed right now. It doesn't have to be but it just has to be targeted, relevant to these users or stakeholders. So that's step 1 or week 4, the first week. And then the next week, I've itemized what you have to do here. You can go through it. I mean, these are things when we meet on Thursdays, like next week when we meet, we'll have to go through this one. Every time we meet, we go through them. I'll also go through what I'm doing so I can show you where I've reached and what I'm doing. If I have challenges, I'll tell you. And so every week we meet, we go through this. And then that way, now we have a kind of plan for our meetings. And when you're preparing for that meeting, you can use these 3 items to guide you. Yeah, like next week, we'll be meeting on these first 3 items up here, the ones which relate to week 1 to 4. These ones, we'll be meeting on this. And we're assuming week 1 starts on Monday. So if we meet next week on Thursday, you'll be talking about this one. And then it's for a whole month, that one. So that the meetings will be on that. Okay, and there are 3 items. So it's like that. Then this is now the actual Gantt chart. And of course, this is helpful to someone visually, I suppose. The ones I did in red is because I was changing those names. So anyway, you can ignore that. But the Gantt chart is fairly straightforward, but it just takes the activities and then puts them on this timeline. Now they're combined. Yours and mine are combined. But the important thing for the document that you're filling out, the agreement form, is this dotted line. There are several dotted lines, the gray ones. These gray ones are our own in-house deliverables. Like we're going to have a deliverable of industry trend analysis. This is a deliverable. It's the first deliverable you're talking about. I'll combine my knowledge or my information with your information and produce what we're calling an industry trend analysis. And then we need a user behavior study. So you get your users, you've got your lists. These are the users. You have the stakeholders, and you'll get them. I should have written here user and stakeholder. So, but this is user. So there's end user, victims, and stakeholders. They're both users. So the user behavior study is okay. So you'll get your document on that. I'll prepare a document from the Wika technical side, design and development, and then we combine them. And then we have what we call a user behavior study. And then we have this one, which is the regulatory framework overview. That framework overview on your side is the curriculum. On mine, it will be the plan. It will be architectural drawings of exactly what we're doing. Okay, and then now finally we have this one, which we're calling the app blueprinting visualization. This is actually the prototype. So in as much as we have this document, regulatory, the curriculum, you can present that. I can present a prototype, which will now demonstrate the proof of concept and also the branding, the visual branding of this Wika app. There's a visual prototype and also the proof of concept prototype. There are 2, but this is having both of them. The app blueprinting, that's what we're calling the proof of concept, and the visualization is the branded visual prototype. Okay. Now, when they're asking you for, show them key milestones, this is a key milestone. This is the one, the app blueprinting and visual prototype. So this is diagrams, but also an app, which we demo, and then this document, the regulatory framework overview. All that we're giving them here on this red line. And this is 7th of February. Okay, so that's the first one. Now, if you go by what they were saying on the agreement, they were giving you 2 months to do that. So they're giving us 2 months. If we start on the 6th and you count 2 months, that's 6th of March. So we're saying by 7th of February we'll be ready. So we have some lag time. about 3 weeks. So just to let you know, this is something to fill into the document. Okay, and this date you can still count 2 months instead of 7th. You can put there 1st of March, but we'll be ready by 7th based on this. Let's look at the next one. The next one has these interim milestones. Now we're pilot testing. You see, when you're doing pilot testing, this is when you're on the ground. You've already started with the first program workshop, and then we can run a pilot there with the app because you've started it. Of course, you'll start with the first round of events, which is sensitization. It may not need the app so much, but by the time you're doing the activities in the next workshop, you'll need the app. So that's the pilot testing. Then we have what we're calling feasibility validation. You know, feasibility, Jackie, is when you're trying to check to what extent the app is solving the problem. The app has to be a true solution to the victim. That's what we mean by feasibility. It's feasible, it's doable, but it's doable in a way that is relevant to the victim. So we have to show that. We'll do it in a workshop environment where we run these feasibility tests. And then we'll come to the cultural sensitivity, workshops, and testing. Yeah, this is important, I think, the cultural sensitivity bit, because, I'll just explain it in a sentence. But what I mean by cultural sensitivity is that most data for AI doesn't include African culture, just the way we do things in Africa. So our data will be like that, but we have to test it for that, because people will say, but aren't these human rights or human values? So what's African about them? So we will have to identify what is African that we are saying about our data, and why our data is unique, because we're Africans. That's what cultural sensitivity workshop and testing is about. And I think it's important, otherwise we get lost. We start implementing things that are foreign and people don't even understand what we're doing. Okay, and then we do this horizontal prototyping. A horizontal prototype is a prototype that looks at the whole system but breaks it up into components. And these are, at this stage, these components are separate, they're not working together, and we test them separately. For example, if you have a stakeholder component, it's different from the victim component, which might be, again, different from the, let's say, admin, you can say customer service component. These are 3 components, but they're all different. They're not working together. So we call it horizontal prototyping, but it's okay. We can test them separately. It's okay. Okay, that's a milestone. Now, we can say that this is our second deliverable, this one, if we want. But I was going to say, let's do the next one. This is the one that we can give them. Component prototyping. Component prototyping is when you're prototyping these separate components together now, so that they work together. We show them how the stakeholder works alongside the, you can say, user, the victim, which works alongside all these suppliers. The suppliers would be healthcare, police, legal services. You see, that's what this component prototyping is doing. It's showing how the different components work together, as opposed to the previous one, which is showing them working separately. So this is what we can demonstrate to them, because it will feel to them like it's a complete system when we show them working together. Okay, so that's this one. And then we can move to this one here. They all have their intermittent, milestones, which is documents and theory. Not theory, I think it's practical, but it's documents, analysis, planning, and just framework documents. But then the prototype itself, like this integration prototype now starts to integrate the different services together. For example, if we're going to work with hospitals, we should now talk to the hospital to find out what system they have, so that we can know how, at what point we can integrate with them. If we're going to work with Safaricom, like M-Pesa, then we need to talk with Safaricom so that we know how we're going to integrate the Safaricom information. If we're going to integrate with police, same thing. So this integration prototyping is integrating services which are external to Wika into Wika now, so that they work together. We don't have to show them this because we've already shown them the 2 that they wanted to see, but we'll carry on working. And then finally, we come to a complete core system prototype. It's still a prototype, but now this one has brought together the whole thing, and we have tested it system-wide to make sure that it's working with the programs. So this one integrates what you do on the programs with Wika, the product, and then with the services which we've already tested or we've already built in. This is the end. Once we have this one, we have a complete prototype working for the scenario that we have discussed earlier. So if that scenario is Jericho women in Islam's, okay, then that's the scenario, but it works for them. And now we're ready at this point. This is now when we hit, it's July 7th, in fact, when we're doing this prototype test. That's what this is showing. So that's okay. Those are, you see, they give us 8 months. July 7th is like 6 months. Yeah, because we start June 6th, we finish July 7th. That's how this thing is going. So that's it, Jackie. That's what we needed to discuss for this schedule. But there's one last bit which is on allocations. But you can talk on this one. Do you have anything you'd like to comment on this?
No, I asked you in my email if I should include all these things in the.
No. In the commitment form, from the way I saw it, they're only asking you to tell them when we're going, like give them a date and what we're going to show them. So, for example, there are two things they're asking. So let's just review it again. If I go back here, they're asking for us to show them. I mean, it's for us to pick. So let's show them this one, the app blueprinting and visualization prototype. We'll show them this one. Yeah. And then
when
it's the date.
Oh, you're this table.
Yeah, the date here is 7th of February, but in their schedule, they've said 2 months. Within 2 months of receiving the money, you should show them something. So within 2 months, we'll be able to show them this one. You see?
Yeah, but now, so it doesn't mean I should show them now when I'm sending that.
No, have they given you a provision for doing that? They're asking you to fill out that form and sign it. So you need to fill in a date. So I would say fill in a date of that's 2 months after they give us the money. So a date like March 6th. March 6th is 2 months after January 6th. So we assume that they'll give us the money by January 6th. If they do, then by March 6th, we're going to show them the first one, the first milestone. That's what we're saying, March 6th. But you and I know it's actually February 7th when it will be ready. But you just fill in March 6th because that's the date they want. We give them their date. And then the next one is again 2 months after that. So for us, we skip horizontal prototyping. We show them a component prototype, this one. It will be ready by April 21st, this one. The component prototype will demonstrate that. But that one, just give them the dates that they want. So if March 6th means by June 6th. By June 6th, we show them the second one, which is this one, component prototype. And it's not just this. We're giving them 3 things. We're showing them a prototype. We're showing them a design. A design is like an architectural drawing. And then we're going to show them a report. The report is this one. It's called Social Impact Metric Report. Let me not use the word design. Social Impact Metric Report. Okay? That's what we'll show them. So that component prototype, we'll show them that. And then we'll show them what we're calling component prototype drawings. Component prototype drawings are like architectural drawings. So there are 3 things we'll give them. And even the previous one, which was up here, let me go back. Here, we'll be giving them an app blueprint and visualization prototype, number 1. Number 2, we'll give them an app blueprint and visualization drawings. And then we're going to give them a regulatory framework report. So we're going to give them a report, drawings, prototype. 3 things. Of course, they'll be brief and we'll explain things in a way that they can understand. So it's not technical, so that they can understand what we're doing. Okay, so it will be simplified for them, but that's what we're going to give them. So the first one, and this regulatory framework report, app, blueprinting, and visualization drawings and prototype will be given to them on March 7th. And then the next one is this one. This one. Let's call it social impact report and the component drawings and prototype. We'll give them that one on June 7th. June 7th. And then the final thing, we're going to give them on August 7th, June, so July, August, yeah. August 7th is going to be this final product down here. This one, a complete core system. So we're going to give them, again, three things. We're going to give them, we'll give them a complete system drawing and prototype and a complete system report. This name, adoption and misuse scenario analysis, I've not given the correct name. Scalability and risk management plan. Yeah, maybe this. We can give them a scalability and risk management plan. That one we can give them. So this scalability and risk management plan at the end, and then a complete core system prototype. We'll give them that. And drawings. We'll give them that. And that's by 7th of August. So our three delivery dates become March 7th, June 7th, August 7th. And that presumes they give us money on, let's say, January 7th. So we can start January 6th. So that's it. We don't have to give them all these things because they may not understand without our explanation. So we don't have to do that. I think that's, and they're not asking for it also. This is for our planning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we can end the meeting. Ama kuna AOB.
No, there's this one of the allocations. So the allocations in terms of money. So you see the money comes in.
Okay. Can I interrupt you?
Yes, yes.
Can you give me, I need a few minutes break, like 5 minutes.
Okay, no problem. So. So we can continue. So
can you hear me?
I can. I can hear you. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So now the last part of the thing is not much. It's just the issue of the allocation of cost. And you had asked me about your computer. Can you get a computer? The answer is yes. But what you need to do, you need to look at this part now. It's also homework. We can discuss it next time. But let me go to it. It'll take time. I'm just scrolling down to where we need to be. We've done the schedules. All right, so this is where we need to be. So in terms of the money that's coming in here, yeah, this is the money that's coming in. So in dollars, it's $22,000, but it's coming in these tranches: $6,600, $8,800, and $6,600. So it's coming in those three tranches. The first tranche, as you know, is what's kicking us off. But once you make the second after 2 months, once we show them the first prototype, the report, and the diagrams, then they release the second tranche, the 40%. Then when we show them the next milestone, which was the component prototypes, was it? It was, yeah. And drawings as well. And then the social impact report, they'll now release 6,600. Okay. And then the project ends when we have the complete core system with the final report. That final report will be a business plan targeting the next round of investors. Maybe that's what I didn't write. I'll write it in. And that's important for the purpose of them putting us in front of those social impact investors. We have to tell them we need social impact investors, not for-profit investors. So those are the tranches. Now, you see, in the first tranche, $6,600, we have to see how we're breaking it up. Here it is in shillings. It's 854,000 shillings. That's how much is coming. Now, I've broken it up according to, you can say, the tasks. All right. So in terms of tasks, this is how much is for Jackie, 166,000, but I've broken it into the community outreach awareness and partnerships support services. So this is your design phase. For both of us, it's the design phase. So design of product, design of programs. The programs need 166,000 for purposes of design. You know, the equivalent in academics is you're doing curriculum design, timetabling, you're doing things like course outlines. It's the equivalent of that. That's what this 166 is going into. The preparation of the curriculum and implementation documents. Okay, so once you're done, then they give us the second tranche. No, this is the first 30%. Yeah, so here, yeah, this is for Martin. It comes to 544,000 shillings. This is for the app development and design and the research and data collection. This is for the initial prototyping that we're talking about and the design of the drawings and the development of the initial code. That's what that is. And then comes the joint work that we're doing together, which is the business side. So we have to have a plan for the business in terms of when we are saying that we're developing a business for the app, around the app, what is that case, the business case that we're doing? So this one involves a plan on how we're going to work with suppliers. You know, there are people who are supplying their services. How we're going to, let's say, move money around. That's important for business. Yeah, so things like how we're going to provide customer support at the end. All that is under the business development case. But again, it's a plan. So to write that plan is going to cost this. Okay? So these are not, the only thing that's going to be physically implemented is the prototype itself, the proof of concept, and what we can say is the visualization concept, the visualization app. They should be in a state of readiness for us to implement, because the next round, we're going to start with the programs, the workshops. So the app has to be ready for the workshops. So we're going to have, what we're saying is app proof of concept and visualization prototype ready in the first tranche, so that the next round, when you start doing your workshops, we're going to now start with the actual testing using this app that is ready, which is really a proof of concept app and visualization app. So they'll use that, and then we'll get the data we need. All right. So that's how we start with the first tranche. The second tranche will come. Again, we'll apportion the monies accordingly, and the distribution will reflect the work that's being done. All right. So just to be clear, for again, just repeating and summarizing, is that you're responsible for community outreach and awareness and partnerships and support services. You're going to produce documents. Community outreach and awareness document is like a curriculum, course outline, timetable, because you're designing programs and workshops. So you'll have a plan documented. And then for this one, the partnerships and support services, this is marketing information. So you're going to have what we can say is a marketing and sales plan, but we'll call it partnerships and support services plan. So you'll have that, and it's going to show a list of the landscape of, you can say, all the social impact organizations and agencies and governments that are interested in Wika. It'll have that list, and then it's going to have a breakdown on the low-lying fruits. For example, who is ready for us, and who will we start with? And then, of course, who we start with, you're going to now outline exactly how the sales process is going to work. And that will involve talking to them, getting them to sign NDAs. We have to advance the talk so that by the time you're writing this one, it includes, we already know them, they've already agreed, they've already signed even the NDAs, we've agreed on their role, our role. That should be outlined in this partnership and support services document. You see, so all that is documented. Now, that's what this money is for. This one is to prepare those documents. You see, you should also have a team. If you're saying that you need a salesperson, you also need a community outreach and awareness person. You need to have identified those people so that you're working with them and we know what their costs are. So both of us now need to unpack. Now, if you say you need a computer, yeah, the computer comes out of this. You need to break it down. These ones, there's no for-profit here. Everything here is going to be expended in costs. You need to break this down into the different costs you need to prepare those two documents. And on my side, I need to also give a breakdown on the cost that's going to go into preparing all this. You see what I'm saying? So that's how this works. And then we've got this joint expenses here, which again, we need to cost jointly. So we can do that. Let's say we do that for next time so that at least this one, the breakdowns of how the first tranche is going to be utilized is now itemized based on the work that we need to do. If we can agree on that, then we have a plan going forward.
You're saying we do that next week?
Yeah, because we're meeting on Thursday, right? So on Thursday, let's have a breakdown on our costs. For, in other words, let's show how we're going to spend you 166,000. How are you going to spend it on this? This is an internal document. So if you're going to buy a computer and you know you're already going to do that, put the cost there. You're going to hire 2 people.
Is this money even enough?
No, I told you the money is less. It's less than what we need, Jackie. The money we need is double that. Remember, the money you asked for was $40,000, right? We need $40,000.
Yes.
They've given us half, so we're on a tight budget. It's just going to become apparent to you, but at least it's something. I mean, to be positive about it is just to say that it's better than nothing. So we're saying, how can we work with half the budget to achieve what we need to achieve? You see, that's now what it is. And by the way, if you do it well, then when we go to the next round, now we're talking to the real investors, we are likely to get the budget we need. You know, the budget with the real investors, they start at $100,000. We can get 200,000, 300,000. It depends on how we pitch it, but we'll have to work it out and know exactly what we're asking for the next round. You're there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm processing.
All right. So that's the first, for next week, that's what we can do. But for the week after, you need to present your curriculums, the ones we're talking about. Like, this curriculum needs to be done with its timetable, with its what you can call outlines, course outlines, because you have workshops. So those workshop outlines, you need to have that in 2 weeks' time. And you also need to have a partnership and support services plan, which is like a sales plan. So a list of all the organizations with their addresses and their contact people so that we know who we're contacting. And that list should be there. And then we need to zero in on the one we're going to talk to so that we can start talking to them to work with us. And it's kind of good if we have inroads, we have a way of getting them to work with us. In other words, you've already talked to them and they're already saying that they're interested. Then we at least have a direction. Okay, so these two will be for 2 weeks' time. We'll need those documents. But for now, we just need to have a breakdown of how you want to expend this based on your machine, based on whoever you want to employ. Those are two costs which I can see based on how we have talked are going to come out of this. So 166,000 for a computer, and to get someone to work with you on what you can call community outreach, let's say workshops, curriculum and activities, and then of course a sales plan. These are not necessarily the same person. These are two different people. Well, a salesperson is different from someone who does curriculums for training and workshops. Okay, like that. And I'll help you. This is also something that I'll always be in the room so that, we're always working together. It's not like I'll be far away from it.
Okay.
Yeah. This one, I'll also do the same. And then we have this. So this one for the business case, let's also do this one. I'll put up a Google Doc for this one, the business case development, so that we can put in what we perceive as activities that will attract costs for this. It's just, again, this is just a document. It's a plan. It's not anything that involves buying anything really. But we need to at least start breaking it down so that we know how we're going to spend the money. So, okay, Jackie. So, and the other thing is that you had said if you have money that's sitting in your bank account, you might want to put that money into investment. That's not a bad idea, just so that it's not sitting idle. It's better when there's no money sitting.
Yeah, so I think what we do once we have, like you said, next week we are going to discuss this budget. So then we shall be knowing in advance how much money we need. So like say if this week we need 100,000, I take 100,000 before the week comes.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So what we'll do is we'll discuss. So we'll discuss it. Let's do the breakdown, and then when the breakdown's in front of us, you'll present your breakdown, I'll present mine, then we can talk about it so that we plan and we know how we want to work. But in the meantime, you go ahead and now finish finish this document, this one for the commitment, so that they can now release the cash. And also, I think once you sign they said from the day you sign is the day that you're committed. They don't say from the day you receive money. They say from the day you sign. If that was TUK, you can sign today, you'll get money in 3 months.
Okay, let me do it now so that I just get it over with.
Yeah. True.
So you said they just want dates and my proof of account and what.
Exactly. One of the things you have to remember, it's not in our business plan, but when we're talking of this business case development here, one of the things that comes up, you need to register Chungunzima as a limited liability company, because these guys themselves, this AI movement, have said that part of the ownership of the whatever we're doing is with them. So we have to design the whole legal side of Chunguzima to allow for them to have a percentage ownership. That's how it has to be. How else are we going to give them part of it? You see. So, for example, just as an example, if you're giving them 10%, Chunguzima has to be in a legal framework that can give them 10%. You see. If you and I are having shares, Chunguzima has to be in a way where you and I have shares. But we can't think of it only as the three entities. We have to think of, we're selling shares or equity to investors in the next round. And that's going to be, let's say, in August or September. You see. So Chungunzima has to be designed in a way that legally, where we can sell equity to people who are coming in. It's a negotiation. They may come in and say, we want 50% for $100,000 or for $200,000. They could say anything. But Chungunzima must be designed in a way or legally framed in a way that allows for that. So when you're doing a limited liability company, it's a cost even. It attracts a cost, but we have this joint fee cost here as a legal cost for that. The lawyer is going to design it in such a way that he has shares that can be broken up into the different percentages we're talking about. You see. And they themselves, these guys here, have said that they own part of the product. That's what they have said. If you read it properly, you'll see. I can't remember where it is, but it's somewhere. Yeah, intellectual property, this one. AI movement and the project investigator, that's you, are co-owners of the foreground, while the background remains the sole property of its owner. Now, this is an interesting statement. You see, the foreground is the product. That's the Wiki app. What they're saying is AI movement and the project investigator, that's you, are co-owners of the foreground. That's the Wiki app. While the background and the developing is both the foreground and the background. I'm doing both, you see. But this document is saying they want ownership of the app itself, the product itself. Now, what they're not being clear about is exactly what is the foreground. There are two things in the foreground. One is the front end of the app. The app itself is part of the foreground. And then is what we're calling the, you can say, social impact program, the program that we're talking about. Let's call it the business side of the app. That business side of the app is part of the foreground. So you have the app and then the business around the app. Those services that you're giving, that is the foreground. And what they're saying is they want part of that. So if the easiest and cleanest way of giving them part of that is to register Nchungunzima as a limited liability company and then give them, let's say, 10%. They've not said the percentage they want, but we can suggest to them, you take 10%, and then us will take 90%. The owner, you see. Or they're saying here, the co-owners, will take 90%. So that is now how we can discuss. But it's a clean way of doing it because it's clear if it's a legal entity that they can come in like that. Okay? Then they can respond. I don't know how they respond to it. But then there's what we call the background. So the background is part of a system. So I already have a platform. I already have, which I'm going to put the app on. That platform I have is the background that the app will be sitting on. It's just a cloud service and database that allows the app to function. That's what the background is. But I'll put it onto that so that now the app is able to be built on top of it as a base. So that is the thing I'm saying, that you don't want to lose oversight between now and let's say September or even let's say August. Chungunzima must be registered as a legal entity, and the money which we use for that, or some of it, some of the cost breakdown for this business case development is going to be for that purpose. It's for the legal cost of that. The legal cost of making a limited liability company is between 30,000 and 45,000 shillings. That's the cost of making a legal liability company. But we'll need to do it the way things are going. So, yeah. Okay, so Jackie, that's the end of the meeting. So any other business now?
At the moment, let me just finish this and send it and just get it over with.
Okay.
And I start preparing for my trip tomorrow.
Yeah, that's good that you're traveling, but also important that you send off the information. Because this is the information they were saying you should have done by 30th of November. Do they have a cutoff date when if you send, they're not going to even bother with it?
Well, they say that my earliest convenience, that's what they say. They didn't give me a cutoff date.
Okay. So go ahead then and let them. I hope they are responsive. Like they can tell you, we've received it, it's still on time, we're going to consider when we will send you the money. That's the question. You see, TUK, the problem with TUK is that they'll never tell you when they're going to send you money. We'll never do that. But it would be helpful to ease people's planning and nerves and all those things. If they told you a date, even if that date is late or not within what we expect, but they tell you, then people can plan. Yeah.
Okay. So when I send, I will ask them, like when they tell me they've received my details.
Yeah.
So I'll ask them tomorrow is Thursday, Friday, to give me a date
Yeah.
on when they'll send the money.
Yes, for planning purposes. As you know that Jackie, on Monday we're back to lecturing, so our time is going to be taken up there. So you also know that we're on a crash program because there'll be no break again. With the kind of thing we're doing, half a semester from last week semester, then we have to combine this semester. The holiday will be sucked in. So it's going to be a kind of hectic time. So you know that. You also know that some of us are not going to be coming back to the university. We don't know who, but the VC, I'm very sure, is going to cut off some people. So that again influences. Um, it affects load. It affects so many things. So we need to bear in mind that starting on Monday, it's going to be very hectic.
I hear you. I'm prepared. I've been preparing for this. So I'm willing to put in the hours. Me, my best time is 4 a.m. So I wake up at 4 a.m. to do stuff.
So, and
So
then
it's
one last
okay.
question
I'll
was
just have sleep.
okay. Our last question was: Are you